Thank you so much for taking out time for this webinar. And the reason of doing the webinar specifically was because we were getting a lot of queries, a lot of curiosity was generated among the student fraternity, and not only students. Since we are into education, a lot of parents do come to us, checking out that is it a good time to go abroad? Are there any precautions that we need to take? Do you have any suggestions? Is it a good time to take a loan? Right? How are the employment opportunities going to unfold in days to come? What would be the visa regime going forward? I believe Mr. Trump has finally managed to scare out some of well-deserving candidates, right? So some of the other countries might be indirect beneficiary of it. So and we have seen it, right? So a lot of students who have valid GRE scores, they are kind of moving out from US, trying for Canada, trying for UK, trying for Australia, for that matter. But seriously, I do feel that the biggest beneficiary will be Canada. And my sincere thanks to all the viewers as well, right, that to taking out time. And I seriously believe that this is the very best, best panel that one can have on a webinar, right? So we have on the panel we have Ganga herself coming in, we have Amit sir joining us, right? Both are kind of stalwarts when it comes to counseling for Canadian education in India. Then we have presence from Seneca and Georgian. Monica and Rohan has joined us, right? So I'm sure they'll give us first-hand feedback of how the university or how the college side of it is going to react because of the situation, right? So we try to represent both sides of the coin. One is people who are there in India who are counseling Indian students, and at the same time, people who are actually there in the thick of action, right, who are actually managing the scene, right, for Indian students. So they can give us an idea, how is it safe for Indian students to apply to those colleges, to start studying in those colleges. So this webinar would definitely be available on our platform, right, for quite some time. So all the interested, and we'll keep sending the links to all the applicants who keep applying to us for education loans so that they can go through the webinar. In case they have any queries, they can always approach you guys. You are the veteran stalwart, so I don't think it's going to be tough to find you out there, right? So thank you once again to take time out for us. I'll quickly start with certain things that I'll give a brief about what we have experienced at HDFC Credila, right? So of course, I mean HDFC Credila, we all know that we are a dedicated education loan company, 100% subsidiary of HDFC Limited, and I'm not sure, but maybe we are the only company who is still disbursing loans for Canada. We did disburse almost 20-25 odd crores last month only for Canada, and this month the numbers are looking even better. So we continue to get a lot of students who have applied to us for tuition fee, who have applied to us for GIC, and let me assure all of you guys that we'll continue to disburse loans. So financial aid is not going to be an issue. Now I need to check with the panel whether we are going to get our money back or not, right? How easy it is going to be finding employment or part-time employment, right? And of course, I mean, see, HDFC Credila will always be the greatest well-wisher of the students, right? Primarily because we would always want you guys to do better so that you can earn well and pay us back. So thank you again. We'll start with a quick opening, right? So we'll start with Amit sir, with you, all right? So we had a discussion some time back, right, as well about this pandemic, right, COVID situation, and you very well articulated the sentiments, right, which are there with the students. So we'll start with the overall student sentiment, because you and Ganga, maybe you represent two powerhouses, and you kind of deal with law students day in day out, right? So what do you think the sentiment is currently running at? Students are enthusiastic, or you think they are treading with caution? How would you describe it?
Well, thank you for the question, Hitesh ji, and I would like to welcome all my panelists, esteemed panelists. Well, honestly, what's happening, what you see over the past three and a half months is quite remarkable. initially when the pandemic hit, around middle March, end of March, what you essentially had was a fear psychosis, a sense of just great uncertainty amongst parents and students that just rippled through the entire nation. And what you also saw was just an amazing amount of uncertainty.
Yes, I will take over from where Amit was trying to say something. I probably think he would say, is saying something like, see, the pandemic is an unusual situation that we've all faced. And probably it will only end either under two situations. One is either we get immunization, we get a vaccine, and that helps us to stop getting upset or worried or anxious about the situation. Or we get herd immunity, which means like 50% of the world's population should also suffer from it, which is not something what we want. Therefore, the governments across the world are going to be, investing in lockdown and social distancing. Lockdowns are going to keep coming and going. Like around the world, the countries are coming back, going in. Even parts of our own country, we are having lockdowns and stopping, easing it. And social distancing is definitely here to stay. However, with all of this, like we've all been working from home, and what we do see that, and a lot of research also, as stakeholders, we've been going through a lot of research, which has also been published around. And I think quite tallies with what we are experiencing. 90% of the students are still very, very keen on going and studying abroad. And Canada, of course, seems to still be the topmost study destination. Parents are a little, unnerved about, they're confused about online learning. And also, like you said about the loan, I don't know, maybe you're better in a position to say that, how are the loans coming through, because parents are feeling a little bit of a reduced ability to pay. So maybe the general sense is to, okay, let's start the process, and maybe there will be a large number of people deferring to the next intake where things are a little more settled in, and we know that there is going to be the good news about the vaccine, of course, has come in, and therefore it definitely seems like the beginning of next year is definitely going to be far, far much more positive, not as COVID positive, but sentiment positive.
Precisely. And Amit, you would second the right. Said it's okay to be scared, right? There is no, it's okay. Right? You can definitely be scared, but then as Ganga mentioned, a lot of students are still very enthusiastic about going to Canada.
Apologies, there I had a technical snag. I think I was disconnected from the session. Would you want me to answer that question?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
So essentially what you're seeing, as I said, was a fear psychosis and just a level of uncertainty across the country. Now, your question entailed what is the level of interest that the students have. Now, there have been separate surveys to ascertain that information. There are organizations that have done independent surveys or non-independent surveys. And what we found essentially, that was in early April, there were 63% of students that still wanted to continue with the September semester. Now that number did not decline in a repetitive survey that was done in May, and similarly the latest surveys that were done in June. In June, in fact, the last survey that was done, it was ascertained that almost 73% of students wanted to continue, aspiring their dream of studying abroad, especially for the fall term and for the upcoming January terms. Only 10% of them had actually decided to drop their plans or make different plans because of the pandemic. But you also saw that, there was another survey that asked students how many of them would be willing to travel. And what you saw in that was almost 80% of them were willing to travel. So these were startling statistics that came out. And what we also saw internally when we polled thousands and thousands of students internally at EEC, we noticed that the level of interest, especially as we're talking about Canada, the level of interest remained high, continues to remain high. And we see great attendance in our webinars, in our live sessions, in our call volumes, and that has not much changed. In fact, for the better, what I would say, it has somehow increased, which is even more perplexing, is that the level of inquiry, the number of questions that we answer on a week-to-week basis. So we used to answer about 3,000 questions in a week. Now we see that number has grown, doubled to 6,000 questions a week. So we are currently answering more than 6,000 student questions on a weekly basis in a written or verbal form. And now how do we know that? Because we document that. So we document and we track the number of questions we answer, and through that we can know what the market trends are and what student sentiment is. So to conclude my answer, student interest in Canada remains strong and robust, and there's nothing that's going to change.
Fantastic, fantastic, Amit. Thank you so much. So, viewers, I mean, the oracles of the world have spoken, right? That the interest is not going to die down, right? And they categorically said that students are still very gung ho about going to Canada, and this is precisely something that we found out through our internal surveys. We did try to do a survey of students who have applied to us in last, I think, 6 or 7 months, and we wanted to check with them that when do they intend to go out, right? So they said as soon as possible they want to get out. So that was again kind of encouraging for us, right? So that was the perspective from the from India, from Indian students. Rohan, I would like you to reflect upon it. So how's the Josh with Georgian College? You guys are still very eager to accept Indian students, or you think that there might be some roadblocks or there might be some issues welcoming Indian students for the current season?
Yeah, thank you very much for the hello to everyone who is watching this, and to all the other panelists. I think we have been doing, more webinars, more virtual events than ever in the history due to this pandemic. And being in every session, what we have found out that I think studying abroad dream of a student is a permanent dream, and this situation is only temporary. So I think the students are very, they are sending questions to all our channel partner and even asking directly to the question to the colleges. But yes, the student interest remain very strong, and I have seen a good interest of student after the new IRCC update, wherein they allowed the student to complete 50% of the course in their home country, and there will be no impact on the post-study work visa. Though we always thought that in India there is a lot of technical glitch and student will not be very open for the online learning, but I see as Canada is one of the strongest destination for a student, right? So when a student is going to Canada, it's not just looking for education, it could be he's looking for a settlement. So their dream is also very strong, and I have seen a very good support in terms of the online program that we run in our May intake. And for September, we are also running few program in person. So student who had visa before 18th of March, we are giving them a support letter so that they can travel, and we are advising all the students to travel only in the midweek of August, not now. And when we did a lot of survey through our Georgian Assist app and also through Maple Assist, we did a lot of survey through Academica. We found out that the students are very keen and they are holding their dream. They are not withdrawing. So yes, there was a percentage of students who dropped the plan, but that percentage was very less. That it will not impact the market in large, and because it's very difficult, we thought it's to convince the student to switch to an online program wherein they are paying the fee for the international exposure. But looking at the student support, because once someone attend an online program with any of the college or university, they really found out that the quality and the exposure is more or less same, right? So, and they also understand that the situation is temporary and everyone is together in this, and everyone is taking a decision, whether it's our channel partner, whether it's our financial institution like HDFC or even IRCC, are in the best student interest.
Perfect. Rightly put, Rohan, rightly put. And I think you rightly mentioned that a lot of Indian students, they are not only bothered or concerned about the education part, right? But there is one word that I kept hearing during my Canada visit. I was fortunate enough to meet Amit as well there. So, whichever institute that we went to, and I mean, we did go to Seneca. We met, of course, Prashant and Parth. Right. So there was one word that everybody kept saying was Canadian experience, right? So I believe that Indian students do have that need, or maybe they've been tutored to kind of cling to the Canadian experience. Monica, I would like to ask your opinion about it. That how open is Seneca? Rohan rightly put that the students are gung ho about it. Colleges are again they want the students to come over, and he mentioned that by mid-August. So we continue to get a lot of questions. So I'll keep kind of bouncing them off as well, so that and let it be interactive session. Viewers, you can continue to punch in your questions through this web chat box. You can write to me as well, and even after this webinar, if you feel that there are questions, you can send them to us, send those questions to us, and we'll kind of deflect those questions to, if they are specific to Canada as a destination, we'll send it to Amit and Ganga. Otherwise, we can also try to answer your queries about financial planning and all. Right. So, Monica, how's Seneca preparing up? How's Seneca geared up?
Hi, thank you, and welcome everybody, whoever is here for joining us. Thank you so much for your patience and listening to us carefully. Thank you, Hitesh. Thank you, HDFC Bank, also Credila, for providing us this platform to directly interact with students and sharing our knowledge and having our knowledge, adding up our knowledge too. Yeah, of course, like Seneca and my other fellows, they have already mentioned the dream. Like I always feel education industry is the industry where there's no recession. So any industry you can see recession, but everybody is striving for the knowledge. So how to get the knowledge? So education, like nobody would like to break their knowledge, the education. So whether taking the bank loans or looking for the further programs or education in Canada, and whatever the information, and right now the news, everybody for Canada, they are actually looking into the positive way, because you see the how government is taking, the Canadian government is taking this pandemic and all, how they are preparing for themselves, and you can say this is the new globalization, and everybody is now, of course, preparing themselves for this new globalization. You can say this is a part of now our life. This is going to be, we have to be adapt this thing. Like Ganga has also mentioned, like we are just waiting for the vaccination and all, because immunity and all. So we cannot run from this thing. So this is the new way we have to adapt in our life. So for Seneca, yes, we are also offering students for the online classes, and there are few classes where your physical presence is required. We have run the May 2020 intake, summer intake, also the online. And yes, whenever you start, when you change something, in the beginning it's always hiccups, because students were not prepared for these kind of a new thing, pandemic and online classes. Colleges were also not prepared. But if you see for fall 2020, now mostly all institutes in Canada or students here in India, they are mentally prepared also. Other thing is like the new IRCC rules and all. It's not affecting if you're doing your 50% program in Canada and 50% in your home country. Then of course it's not going to affect your PGWP, because the main attraction for students for Canada is, of course, the quality of education, but they would like to get that exposure of the country also. So in sentiments, if I say, a little bit apprehensive if we are doing some online classes and all, how we'll get that exposure? Not getting that exposure. And as a parent point of view, if you see, they're also a little bit apprehensive about their kids' health, because this is a global pandemic. Because 14 days quarantine is mandatory by all institutes. This is the health policies over there. So that is also, parents are a little bit ambiguity whether they should go right now or not. But still, if you see, there is not much decline in the interest, and this is, you can see in your chat box also, the kind of the questions you are getting, the kind of the attendance you have, decline. Only there are new knowledge, and that's why we are here. How to spread the knowledge? Yes, we can do. So in Seneca, yes, when September fall 2020 is the main intake, students are welcome if they have their stage 1 visa to start their online classes. And we have seen in Seneca itself, we have
Fantastic.
seen the students who have applied for the deferment from September to January 21, and after getting new like announcement from IRCC for first stage of visa, if getting approval, they can start their online classes officially. Like this is not going to affect PGWP. At Seneca, we have seen now we are getting the request to give them back the September 2020 offer letter instead of deferment for the January 21. So this is showing how parents and students are aware and adapting this new technology. Because in India itself, if you see, the primary school kids are also doing the online classes. They have also adapted this knowledge. So this is going to be adapted. So only the problem which a little bit students are a little bit apprehensive, would say, how they get that exposure and about the country, and as a parents with the health issues. But as a Seneca, we are also working on that.
Perfect. I think rightly put, Monica. Thank you so much for giving this perspective of Seneca. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Okay. I'll keep taking questions. I hope you guys don't mind, right? So the question may be out of sync, but then I don't want to lose upon the questions, right? So there's a question. The saying that I mean, Ganga, if you can check it, that there are two-stage visa processes for fall intake. Does that process continue for Jan 21 as well?
See, until the IRCC announces that it is applicable to the next intake, we cannot take a decision on that. As of now, they've announced it for the current intake and for this year only, and therefore the two-stage process, basically the first stage is an AIP or the approval in principle stage, which goes to take into consideration the eligibility criteria of a student, which eligibility means the English requirements, the academics, the gaps, the any backlogs, and the matching the profile. Basically, what exactly it was before, the eligibility criteria still remains the same. And once they feel that the eligibility criteria has been satisfied, they give you an AIP, which is the approval in principle. And then, in fact, the moment you apply, the latest rule is that the moment you apply for your visa, you can start your program online. And once you get your AIP, then of course it means that you've cleared the eligibility, and then you move on to the next stage, for which you have to give your medicals, your, if required, police certificate, clearance certificate, and all your criminal records, and all of that will be assessed for the admissibility criteria, which is the second stage. And once that comes, then you are eligible to travel abroad if there are no travel restrictions. So this is currently only for the September intake.
Okay, thanks. And again, Amit, there is a question from Surat. Right now, the customer says, what will happen when a student will get stage 1 visa and starts online classes, and after 3 months of online class, students get visa denial in stage 2 process. So will the student get full tuition fee back, or he'll get some partial tuition fee? So, and it's a generic question, right? Applies to all the colleges. So if you can take it up, please.
Do you want me to answer that?
Is that a question for,
I think, yeah, Amit, if you can, yeah, take this up. So the question is, the student says that if a student receives admit and he starts online classes, and after 3 months, if he doesn't get visa, so does he get his money back, full money back or partial money back? What's the thing?
are you referring to the colleges refunding the money after the?
Yeah.
Well, essentially, so IRCC did sessions yesterday. So there was a session in the afternoon for students, which of course I attended. And there was a session for institutions last night at 8 p.m., which again I attended. So what we essentially saw IRCC answering when asked this particular question was that students from India normally get rejected because of 2 specific reasons, or would be rejected because of 2 specific reasons. One is they have active tuberculosis. That is one of the most common reasons. that in their medical they get an active tuberculosis. And the second reason is they have submitted fraudulent documents for which honestly IRCC or the Canadian High Commission have no sympathy for. And the student would eventually end up getting a ban of 5 years and would really have no possibility of applying again. So these are the two most common reasons which I am quoting directly IRCC, which they answered when asked this same question. Now, we know that from the press release of Marco Mendicino, the immigration minister, the Minister for Immigration and Refugee and Citizenship Canada, mentioned in his press release that there could be, after AIP, there could be 3 specific reasons because of which a student is not considered admissible. Now, there is a difference between AIP, a study permit, and admissibility. So these 3 things are completely different. Now, when talking about admissibility, what he specifically mentioned was either there's a security problem, second, there is a criminality problem, and third, he mentioned if there are COVID restrictions or situations related to COVID. Now, we know from India, in all our experiences over the years, there is no police clearance certificate, which is otherwise required from other countries. It is not required from India. And that continues to be the case. So there is no police background check that is required for study permit application. Now that may be different for other applications and other visa categories, but especially for study permit applications, it is not needed. जो आपका दूसरा क्वेश्चन है जो आपने पूछा कि क्या फीस वापस करेंगी कॉलेजेस और यूनिवर्सिटीज, तो ये जो प्रोगेटिव है, ये डिसीजन जो है, ये जो बॉल है, ये उनके कोर्ट में है कि इंस्टीट्यूशंस इस हालत में क्या करेगी स्टूडेंट्स की फीस के साथ। लग रहा है कि ज्यादातर जो प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं, जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल यॉर्कविल यूनिवर्सिटी है, उन्होंने अनाउंस किया, टोरंटो एंड वैंकूवर में जिनके कैंपस हैं, उन्होंने रिटन पॉलिसी अनाउंस कर दी है कि जो स्टूडेंट्स को अगर सपोज बाद में वीजा नहीं मिलता है, उन स्टूडेंट्स को $500 काट के उनकी पूरी फीस वापस कर दी जाएगी। ना कि सिर्फ उनकी फीस वापस की जाएगी, पर उन्होंने अगर 1 सेमेस्टर की पढ़ाई की है तो उस सेमेस्टर की ट्रांसक्रिप्ट भी उन स्टूडेंट्स को दी जाएगी कि वो दूसरी कॉलेज में या फ्यूचर में या इंडिया में वो ट्रांसक्रिप्ट यूज कर सकें। अब बात ये आती है कि क्या बाकी जो कनाडा के इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं, जो पब्लिक इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं, जो ज्यादातर पॉलिसीज जो हैं जिनकी बहुत रिजिड होती हैं, वो आगे बढ़ के ये बच्चों के लिए ये सहूलियत दे पाएंगे या नहीं दे पाएंगे, ये चीज बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। पर मुझे जहां तक लगता है कि AIP के बाद वीजा रिजेक्ट होने के चांसेस कोई भी स्टूडेंट के बहुत ही कम होंगे, नामुमकिन जैसे होंगे। पर ये भी बात ध्यान रहे, there is no guarantees that after AIP the visas, the study permit will be issued or the student will be considered admissible. So 3 different things altogether.
Perfectly put. Yeah, perfectly put. So we have two of the biggest colleges in Canada. Let us ask them, because see, again, I continue to get a lot of queries about, because there's a financial impact, right? There's a serious financial impact, and so Seneca, would Seneca refund the fee in case a student doesn't get visa for the current season, Monica?
As of today's policy, because after IRCC, if it's changed tomorrow, so whatever I'm talking about as for the today's policy, our policies remain same refund if due to the visa rejection, because like Amit has also said, and as per the quote by IRCC yesterday, it's very rare that stage 2 if students get refusal, but again it's no guarantee. So if students get refusal at stage 2 and they have already started, one thing is they have already started online classes, then there is no refund, because there is a policy, 10 days policy. Within 10 days of their classes, if they have a time, they can request, they can send us the request. And that case, if visa refusal, then we deduct $200 and rest of the money is refunded back. So $200 for the administrative charges. And But in any case, students personally would like to withdraw, like without sending the visa and all, without wasting the time for the visa refusal. But personally change their mind, and then student would like to send the refund request. Again, it's acceptable. 10 days policy still there. $1,000 we deduct as per the administrative charges, and rest of the money is refundable.
And you
Yes.
Okay, great.
Today's
Rohan, okay, great. Rohan, what's up with Georgian?
Yeah, so I think the Ontario colleges, because as rightly said, we are a public college, so all the policies remain, I think, in all the Ontario province. But as we will having, because after it, the update, this meeting happened only yesterday. So we do have our meeting with the management today, because for all the visa rejection, there is a 100% refund policy after deducting the administrative charges. But this is a really right question on the student point. And what if the student get a rejection after the add and drop date of the college, which Monica is mentioning, which is 10 days. So there is an add and drop date before which the student can any time withdraw and are eligible for the refund. So we have a discussion on this with our, and I'm sure all the colleges must be doing a meeting and must be coming out with a strategy, because all the decision that a college need to take now will be on the best student interest, not on the college point of view. Because we are educationists and we are a government college, and students have been waiting and have been trusting the whole Canadian education system for getting the best of their thing. So I'm sure whether it's $100 or full fees, everything a college decision will be, I think, will be coming out with this week, because the refund policies might be fixed right now, but the situation has immediately changed, and this new update is actually making the student assured that they can start the classes online. Because before AIP, we were only giving the classes to the student who had visa. So the student who had the visa never had the issue. But as rightly said, the chances will be very less, but there is no guarantee again. So we will be coming out with maybe a different policy, but that will only come out after the discussion that will keep on happening over and again in the college and the college in the Ontario government, and then only I think there will be a change. Otherwise, whatever right now is the current refund policy, if a student have a visa refusal and before add and drop date, the student will get the refund.
Fantastic. So I'll summarize it up, right? So see, students, there is no guarantee of getting your money back for sure. The panelists have spoken, but at the same time, as Amit mentioned, right? So chances of visa refusal, I mean, they're not that prominent. I mean, you should not panic about that, all right? Normally it should get through, but in case if you get stuck, that the chances may not be that. You will always have some deductions at your place, and it's always better to check with the college that you apply to, right? You can speak to your counselor with whom you're taking a counseling. Then you can check with the college wherein you apply to. I think your counselor can also check with the college and come back to you. So that would be even a better idea of getting all of correct information. Fantastic. I think that answers it. There are a couple of questions.
That one thing, all refund on the website of the colleges, and as and when the refund policies will change, they will be mentioned on the website as well. So students should make sure that they go through the website and go through all the instructions that are given along with the offer letter and on the website to ensure that they are fully informed. Speak to the counselor if they do not understand something, get the terms explained by the counselor, and then take your decision.
And I think
so you can always go to the
COVID situation,
yeah,
especially with the COVID situation, there was some decision that we took case by case basis also, because for example, if there is a fraudulent document, so I'm sure it's 100% student fault, but if there is a health related issue, it could be with anyone. So I'm sure I just hope that whatever decision we take will be on the best student interest. So even in case of health, try to do it on the case by case basis, but the decision will come up after the next week. And as rightly said by Ganga, it's responsibility also of the student to make sure to go through the offer letter, because everywhere the refund policies are updated with all the colleges, be it it's a private or a community college. But most of the time in India, after getting an offer letter, students never go to the website and they only do it from their counselor. And I'm sure sometimes counselor also think that they have already read it. So I would again repeat this for all the students that is watching this now or might be watching the recorded version, to make sure to go through the website of the college, check the refund policy, and in case of any issues, please talk to your counselor, because we are in constant touch with all our channel partner, and your counselor is as updated as a college representative.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic. So, Rohan has casted some silver linings, right? So we can have some standalone cases wherein it can be considered. So again, a good thing to do. So, Ganga, I'll come to you, right? So, okay, sorry. Usse pehle I have a couple of questions for me to answer. So, some of the students have said that, as I was mentioning in the beginning of the call, that we are seeing some kind of migration from US to Canada and other abroad, other destinations. So, there are a couple of queries where the students have said that a loan sanctioned for USA, right? 30 lakhs rupees loan has been sanctioned, and now they are opting for Canada. So does that loan amount, does that sanction holds true? Yes, my dear friend, the sanction definitely holds true. Please submit your fresh documents, a fresh admit for that specific college that you have got admit from, and we'll have, of course, a bit of reassessment done. But yes, please submit those documents as soon as possible. You cannot use that sanction letter for Canadian Institute for sure, but please submit your admit documents, and I'm sure if you've got sanction for US and you've good credentials, I don't think that should be an issue with Canada. Okay, so one of the things that, there are a couple of questions, and again, Ganga, I'll play devil's advocate here, because, from a student perspective, I'm a student, right? And everyone keeps telling me, when I went to Canada, then people did say that, to get a job in Canada, you need to get Canadian experience, right? So do you have Canadian experience? Yes, then you will be preferred. Otherwise, there's some decent amount of, weightage that's being put. So students end up put fair amount of queries that does it make sense for them to take online courses, number one, as compared to offline. Of course, I mean, classroom coaching, the classroom trainings are definitely better, right? But since classrooms are not possible now, does it make sense to take online classes, number one? Number two, will the employers or the job opportunities, will they take a hit? Will they distinguish, will they discriminate between students? Somebody who has taken online program and somebody who has studied offline in classrooms, right? Yeah.
Okay, thanks for asking this question. Uh, let's not talk about the COVID right now or the online. Anyways, let me just give a little bit of background about Canadian education. Co-op programs are something which are very, very, very typical to Canada, and most of these government colleges, their diploma programs, their graduate certificate programs have a large amount of co-ops in them, because the whole idea of the Canadian government setting up these colleges is practical oriented education, which is totally related to industry required skills, and the programs are all completely employer driven. As per the future requirements of the industry in the various fields, these programs are actually designed, the curriculums are designed by industry experts. So now I agree with you that when there is an online component of it, the way the colleges have actually, the way I have been interacting with more than 75-80 colleges in the past 2-3 months, and I've been discussing this, that is how I know about it. The colleges have been saying that they have planned out their curriculum in such a way, because every program has some theory classes component as well as some industry, practicum or whatever, placements or co-ops and all of that. So now the way they have designed their programs is such that they can currently start with the online component of it, which involves classroom learning and assessments and assignments and stuff. And those programs which they are absolutely unable to run in that format, most of the colleges have actually suspended those programs, or they have moved them to the next intake, wherein the hope of travel and possibility is much more. And so that is the way they've done that. Now, to understand a little bit of the co-op programs, the students, those who choose the co-op programs, actually find that they get involved in the with the employers, with the industry, while they are studying itself, and because they are exposed to all of that, when they complete their program, they are able to give employer reference. Because when you get see, every student gets a postgraduate work permit after you finish your study. And when you are in the postgraduate work permit period, obviously you would like to get the Canadian work experience. And for that, in Canada, the employers prefer if you have a Canadian employer reference. So these co-ops which are so typical to Canadian colleges are really the baseline on which the students are able to get a jump start to their career because of that. And that is something that students are really, really happy about. And that is why they choose Canadian colleges and these diploma programs. These helps to, the co-ops help to build contacts. They give you employer reference. You also get a lot of job listings in those companies. And when you finish your program, there's a lot of likelihood that you may actually get a longer term job, a more permanent job with the same employer if you've been very good and if they have the vacancy.
Yeah, precisely. I think the co-op programs are the best things that happen in Canada because amazing experience, amazing exposure, and they actually prepare you, right? Even in your academic life, they actually prepare you for the corporate. That's the best part. Thanks, Ganga. And I'll come to Amit. So again, I continue to get some queries about the parents. So the parents do see some health issues, right? So, do you think that traveling to Canada in maybe August? Although I do feel that it's an understatement when it comes to the thing that Canada is coping up really well with the pandemic, right? They are doing relatively better, at least as compared to India. So I believe Canada would be better destination even at the time of pandemic. But still, Amit, right? How would you suggest? What will your advice to be for the parents who have security and health concerns for their students to travel to Canada at this point of time?
Well, I hope parents and students are listening because that's a really interesting question. Now, there are two things in this. One is a desire to travel, and the other thing is a permission to travel. So one of the most important things that India and Canada ought to be doing is understanding what their own travel restrictions are. Now, a student might end up getting a study permit if the vacs open up and the biometrics start, but will they be allowed to travel? That's a whole another question. There are travel restrictions in place currently which do not allow students to travel. Even students with hybrid courses cannot travel right now, even if they are asked to come to the college or university in Canada. So honestly, from health is a personal responsibility of every individual in this world. And honestly, if there seems to be a travel need which is required, which is aspired for September, that should be pushed away. So that should be pushed away because travel restrictions might not allow them. What about quarantine? When they go there, they require 14 days of quarantine to be done. Now, in quarantine guidelines of the Canadian government, you ought to travel from the airport alone to your place of quarantine. You are not recommended to use public transportation. You are supposed to provide evidence that you are living alone. So let's say you have an uncle or a friend. Do they have a spare bedroom? What is the occupancy of the apartment? Is that occupancy as per the quarantine requirements? What about food? How do you take your breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Do you go out in a restaurant and eat? You'll violate your quarantine if you do that. So you need to organize a tiffin service that comes home or delivery. Let's say you use Uber Eats or what we call in India as a Zomato or Swiggy. That's going to cost you money. So all of those things, and then after that, there is evidence of quarantine that you need to provide, and there'll be checks that Canadian health officials would do. And if you come up in those checks and you don't pass that check, there are fines which run in thousands and thousands of dollars. So all of those things have to be looked at in perspective along with health. So you're looking at spending $1,500 as per my last calculation, assuming that $62 on an average is a hotel room rate. So a hotel room rate is something that you'll need to stay in a hotel all by yourself for 14 days, order food from outside, and eat every day? Will you be, whether it's 2 meals or 3 meals? And also you need to provide evidence that you did that. So from a health point of view, I would say that September travel, even if you want to travel, you might not be allowed to travel by current restrictions in place. But January is a whole different story.
Perfectly. I think it also answers the question. The student had asked that, would they be allowed to travel by cab during quarantine? Yes. Public transportation, of course, I mean, you cannot use, but private vehicles, of course, you can. And you have to give proof of your, you being confined to the quarantine. Right.
Let me add to what I just said. Now, public transportation is not banned for quarantine. It is just highly unrecommended in Canadian quarantine guidelines. Because you get straight out of the airport and you start infecting people. That defeats the sense of the quarantine, right?
Correct. Right, Anand, rightly put. So, let me get a perspective from the colleges, right? Because Indian students, they're mostly concerned about two aspects. First is the financial aspects to it, right? Because they want to, there's a financial burden that they'll take. I mean, most of them will take a loan and come to Canada. And secondly, they're bothered about the kind of employment that they're going to get, right? So I'd like to build upon what Ganga mentioned some time back, right? About when I asked that, how would students who have studied online programs, would they be discriminated against when it comes to employment, right? So Rohan, what do you suggest, right? So because you're there with the college, you think that the kind of employers there would be, would they regard students who have taken online classes as, would they be at a certain disadvantage for the employment of programs?
I think this is a very, very good question, and I think we are one of the best co-op college, as Ganga was mentioning, and focusing on co-op. So we are the #1 co-op college of Canada. So I think how the programs are built. So there are two types of program. One are the type of program wherein it's for a college to deliver it online. But there are some other programs which have lab component or which need a practical exposure. So those programs are not being given remotely. So they have an in-person component. So the student has to be in the lab, for example, our health related courses, nursing related courses, or maybe engineering, technician related, because that all have a lab content. So only if you see the IRCC update, they only say that you can maximum complete 50% of the course online. So whichever hybrid model a college has come up with is only covering the theory aspect of it. It is not covering the practical aspect of it. Another point here is when you say a Canadian exposure, so we have student services which student can also access online. So it can be a peer mentoring, it can be a math center, it can be a essay center, it could be our library, or it could be a meeting with the co-op consultant. Because everything is happening online, only the practical part cannot happen. So when you have to be on the job, that means the on-job training cannot happen. But I'm sure when we have to, help them with a resume building, cover letter, or maybe training them for the interview, everything can happen online. But the whole program is not delivered online. It is only the theoretical component of the program which is delivered online. So there will be no discrimination, because in the end, when it was required to have a skill, the student was doing it practically and not virtually. Also, the co-op yeah.
Sorry.
So the co-consultants are online in their department, and they are building a whole employment reference for these students. And I think there are some new programs which have been given a right birth or a right boom, like big data, artificial intelligence, virtual interface, because these all things have got into noted digital marketing, have come into a picture after the COVID-19 situation. And I think now we are trying to explore that how are the ways because as we are the #1 co-op college with the highest graduate success rate, we still try and focus that by the end of their program, they will be able to land up with a job, because the practical component only comes after the first semester. It never comes from the first day.
Okay, fantastic. I think fantastic. That really reassures me as a, I'm not an aspirant, but of course, I continue to get a lot of questions. So I do feel good hearing that. Monica, how would you take it, right? So Rohan has made a very valid point. He made two very valid points. First is he said that, practical training starts from the subsequent semester. So you should not get scared away that, you are losing out on Canadian experience. And second, he also mentioned, I, we are getting a lot of questions, and again, as a lender, it's kind of important for me as well to understand that what kind of courses would actually fetch better employment during these times. So normal times, I did my research, I did meet, some experts, I got some feedback from colleges, from universities, from experts, domain experts, what kind of courses do get better employment. But during this pandemic situation, which courses? The question is two ways. First is, again, as he mentioned, is there any discrimination? Second, what kind of courses, which kind of subjects you think are better suited for the pandemic situation?
Okay, thank you for your question, Hitesh. Here I would like to cover all your questions. Okay, so first question is like co-ops or internship kind of thing, because of course when students are looking for Canada education, they are looking for hands-on experience, the practical experience in layman language, which I say. And our courses like in Seneca, if you know Seneca, the main three campuses where they are located at GT area, Great Toronto area, and that is the attraction for international students, basically for Indian students. Our 95% programs, if you see, are either inbuilt co-op, that's either mandatory or optional, or with work term, mandatory work term, or field experience. So the basic idea is, or capstone projects. So basic idea is how to get that hands of experience beyond your classroom, that theoretical experience. Now, when we are talking about, yes, online classes students can do, that is giving them, yes, interaction with their faculties, with their subordinates and all, and that is giving them the theoretical experience. So yes, right, like Rohan has already said, our components now, because of this pandemic, the online classes components are designed like this in technology, where we are covering the theoretical part. And first semester, if you see, basically it's a theory part which you are covering. Now 50%, when we are saying 50% of their course students can complete online there from their home. For example, any student who are doing postgraduate certificate program, that is a 2 terms. Again, first term would be a theory part, and by the second 50% they are completing. Same if I see diplomas or advanced diploma, if students are doing their first 2 terms theoretical part they are covering. Then in the second term or third term, if they have a visa, valid visa before 18th of March, and it's mentioned in their program, it's required in-person component and they have to travel, then in that case, on request basis, we are giving them the travel letter also, so they can lift that restrictions. And for the second term or third term, if they have completed their May 2020 term in India, they can travel to complete their co-op. Now in co-ops or for work field networking, Seneca is famous for that is the strength for Seneca. We have almost 1,000 employers in our campus Parafa, you can say the topmost employers. So that is a strong networking. You can see basically from top companies, CEO of the companies or managers or HRs are alumni from Seneca. That is a strong networking which build. So that is networking contacts, how you get contracts. That is, I have a career coordinator, we have a career connects, and all students can do that connections online. They can, like, we are helping them for their professional resume, we are preparing them for the professional interviews. So by the time they reach over there, how to start their co-ops. Few of the programs are with mandatory field experience, that is also valid. Now these things we are talking about who has the students who are waiting to travel. What about students who are already there in our colleges, who have already done their last semester online? What about them? How they'll do? Of course, any students who are already there and now their second term is required their co-ops or work field and all. In that case, yes, we are helping, still we are helping students. Like last year, you can say that was about 92% of the employer satisfaction rate because of the demand. Due to the COVID, yes, it's affect the employer demand, but it's not closed. I'm not saying it's vanished. So students are still, Seneca is still helping them to getting their co-ops, work terms, or field experience who are already there. So that is also going on. Now, courses, kind of a courses like technician courses, lab, where is lab assistance required, the chemical or the underwater experts, or of course in the health related, essential. Like government has also said, beside their 20 hours per week jobs, they are allowed to work more than that legally if they are in the essential jobs in health related. So that is also we are helping how to get beside their co-ops and mandatory work field. So that is adding on value, like any student who are in the health field or any program that is essential for the government. So they are eligible to do more than 20 hours per week. Other thing is like for travel restrictions, I would like to add up here for Mr. Amit also. Like Seneca has providing the special opportunity for students if they would like to travel, and that is essential. If they require the travel letter also, it's mentioned on their program. It's essential to be there in-person component. Yes, we are providing. Then there is a facility. Students can go to our website. They can request for the airport pickup. That is, we have a tie-up with at Peterson Airport with the Sheridan Hotel, from where the Sheridan Hotel's cab, they pick them. There is no public transport exposure they required, and in the rooms that is $189, but it's a little bit costlier per night, including food. So food is not problem. 14 days quarantine is not problem. At airport, they do not need to go outside of the airport. Also, they are not required for public exposure. So these kind of yes, international student services, these kind of services are there because as an international student services, we are giving students the airport pickup services that is free of cost, but these services are suspended due to the pandemic, but we are helping students to connecting them for the airport hotel where student can apply, they can contact to them, we can share their email IDs, how they can book their hotel for 14 days, and that is also we are providing the services.
Fantastic, fantastic.
I hope I have been through all questions. I covered up.
Yeah, great. No. So you answered it. You perfectly answered it. Killed it actually. Right. Two ways. Right. So one very critical thing that Monica mentioned, guys, essential health services. Right. And this is something that we as a lender need to check that as well. That essential health services you are allowed to work more than 20 hours. Secondly, Seneca, for Seneca's behalf, she's spoken that you'll get full assistance once you land to Canada. I'm sure whichever colleges that viewers you want to go to, right? So please get in touch with the student services. I'm sure they'll guide you for that. Okay.
So would like to just one thing. Sorry, but you, I said like to add one thing here,
please.
Because I think most of the students who have these kind of questions are the students who are have offer letter for fall intake. So as rightly said by Monica, that all the colleges are giving support letter mainly for those students who have the in-person component in the program. So we have those students to travel. So as Amit also rightly said that looking at January looked very smooth and easy, but for September the in-campus component are traveling with the support letter in the mid of August, and they have been provided the whole option of quarantine by the college itself. Because I'm sure when we are requesting the student, we are also giving them the option. So we have circulated our quarantine option with all our partners, so that before student even think of travel, they already know about the additional expense that they have to make at the quarantine, and the college is arranging and having a third party which is doing it for them. Because it's not the student, it is also about the college safety and also about the country. And one more additional point, because you asked Amitji about the parents being worried about, but I'm sure what Corona has taught everyone is the social distancing. And why in India it is not possible is due to the population. But I'm sure once they are in Canada, they are much safer than they are.
Yes, yes, yes. Rightly so. Rightly so. I mean, this is something that, during pandemic, Canada is definitely a better place to be at, right? At least for now. So,
Quality.
great. Thank you so. Pardon?
I said
Quarantine.
for quality also.
Yes. Okay. So, Ganga, one of the things, right? Sorry, I'll take one of the questions which have come from me. Right. The students are saying that if they receive sanction letter for fall and if they defer it for spring, would the sanction letter be hold true, or would they be required to pay another sort of fee for that? No, guys. If you have a well sanction letter from me, you don't need to pay that fees again. We'll adjust that fees again for your spring intake. So whenever you get a real admit letter, whenever you want to go out for studies, so you can kind of take a code. You can always come back that already paid the fee and we'll adjust it. So no additional charges for that. Ganga, one of the things that differentiate Canada from rest of the world, right, is that part-time work. And I've seen many questions. And part-time job employment is something that gives me uh, confidence as a lender, right? Because I know for sure that students are going to do, most of them are going to earn, right? And at times when you ask the student that how are you going to meet, so the cost is 25 lakh rupees. Students come and ask for 15 lakhs, and when you ask them, 10 lakh किधर से आएगा? So then they'll say, no, there are enough opportunities in Canada. So Indian students, to be specific, they always look up to that. So how do you think part-time employment, part-time work is going to change, or is going to get better or worse? Or your thoughts?
It's a very good question you've asked, Hitesh. Basically, there are two components to this earnings of a student. One is the co-ops that we've talked so much about, because most of the co-ops in Canada are paid internships. So that is one aspect of it which the colleges themselves help the students to get. And like Monica very clearly elucidated the way they have planned it out and all of that. So I don't need to repeat that. And most of the colleges are doing that. They've planned it out in such a way that it will be possible. The curriculum has been designed like that the co-op part of it will be when the student arrives there. So that is one part of it. The other part of it is the part-time work, 20 hours a week, which a student can work on. Now, this is something that, like you rightly said, students are very, very happy about that, because it's very much possible. There is a huge Indian population across Canada, and in most of the colleges that these students go to, they have a lot of friends, they have a lot of connection, and they are able to, other than the regular part-time jobs, they are also able to get friends and able to, with their connections, are able to get part-time jobs. Now, in addition to all that, during the COVID-19, that one of the major things that the Canadian government did was to announce 76,000 extra jobs in the healthcare and essential services sector. Now that, and many of the employers are taking it upon themselves to actually employ students, whether it is domestic or international. They wanting to employ students at the entry level posts that have come through. In the 76,000 jobs, of course, there are jobs of different levels, but there are a lot of administrative jobs, security jobs, and coordinator jobs, which are definitely possible at the entry level and by students, whether they are domestic or international, and that has really helped a lot of these students. And once you're employed in this sector, the Canadian government again has said that if you're doing your online classes in country, and you have the time, you can, and if you've got a job in this healthcare sector or the essential services sector, you can work much longer than the 20 hours per week. So that is something definitely helping the students considerably. Now, in addition to that, now this is something, okay, some other countries have also announced, but let me say that the Canada has gone beyond all this. They have announced something called the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. Now, what is Canada Emergency Response Benefit? That is, the Canadian government announced that if you've lost your job, any part-time job, any job because of COVID, you just need to send us a proof that you had a job offer and you don't have it anymore, and we will pay you $500 per week. So there are international students who lost their jobs because of COVID-19, have benefited. We've had our own students who've given us feedback, and they've been getting almost $2,000 a month because they've lost their job. I mean, like, which country in the world is doing that? You know, like the Canadian government has really, really looked after. And in addition to that, I would say that the colleges themselves, I mean, I've heard from every college because I'm in touch with all of the colleges. There are COVID bursaries which are being offered. There are financial aid for the student emergency support programs that the colleges have. There's something called laptop assistance programs. There are tuition fee freeze so that the fee is not going to increase. So there's a huge amount of financial benefits that are being offered by the colleges themselves. And they are actually reaching out to other associations or the other communities close by or alumni and trying and getting funding to help them with the student emergency support programs. So this is all that I can say that Canada is doing and doing so differently from other countries.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks, Ganga. Amit, I'll pose next few questions to you. Right. We'll directly take some questions. Right. So you mentioned that, and I think Monica and Rohan mentioned that, you have to stay the 14 days quarantine. So what happens after that? After quarantine, students can go to the PG apartment. They have to look out for space. Or are there any further restrictions on movement for students?
Well, currently, once you are in the country and you meet the whatever travel restrictions are in place or quarantine requirements, and you fulfill those, and you have required evidence that you've done that, there is really nothing more that you need to do. Once that 14-day period is over, you are a free bird and you can roam around wherever you want. Malls are open in Canada, so are all the subways and McDonald's and everything. Even most of Ontario is now in stage 3 opening. So they had plans, and these plans can be Googled and downloaded. So if students Google or parents Google Ontario reopening COVID-19, they will get a stage-wise opening plan where there was a stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. And right now, Ontario is, as of today, in stage 3. Every province has a different reopening and COVID action plan. For reopening, many provinces have already completed stage 3. Many have started stage 3. So, life is getting to normal. Most of the places, for example, in Thunder Bay, Ontario, and Northern Ontario, there are no COVID cases at all. In New Brunswick, there are no COVID cases at all. And they've not had them for quite some time now. So honestly, the problem of COVID is more centric to the larger population, places where you will see embers of COVID activity, especially in Montreal and Toronto, and the VTMCO. So the Vancouvers and Montreals and Torontos and Calgarys and Ottawas of the world. So these are the 5 cities where you see embers of COVID activity. Pretty much the rest of Canada is reopened just back to normal.
Okay, right. So the students they don't need to have families there in Canada to support, right? Because some of them have been asking that, do we need to have families because we cannot go to PG during this quarantine period. I think they have to stay at a hotel or something, right?
Yes.
Well, you can stay in a family home. You can do that, which, as I mentioned earlier, so let's say a family, the apartment that you're living in is a 2-bedroom apartment, has by the city council, has a capacity of 4 occupants. Okay, so in Canada, apartments have occupancy capacities which are prescribed by the city council. So there are 4 occupants in a 2 BHK apartment. Now for quarantine, technically that occupancy ought to be 2 or 3 maximum, because if there's 1 bedroom which is in sharing and there are 2 people in that, but for the person who's quarantining, there has to be a separate bedroom. So, you might fail your quarantine checks if occupancy criteria are not met in the family home that you're living. So let's say you go and, stay with a relative who has a 2-bedroom apartment, but 5 people living in that. there is no way you can quarantine in that house because you won't meet. And honestly, I would request all colleges, and colleges are already starting to do that, right? They have plans in place, contingencies in place to do this quarantine activity, because this is a major concern of students, is how do they travel. Right now the biggest concerns of students is travel and quarantine, and this needs to be addressed very clearly to students. And also what needs to be addressed is who fits the bill and how much that bill will be for 14 days of stay and food. So Monica answered part of that answer, but everyone in Canada needs to answer that, right? Everyone needs to answer that. Rohan ji answered that, Monica ji answered that, but every college in Canada needs to answer that question.
Yeah, correct. I mean, it's extremely important, because I think quarantine rules. Somebody asked, where do we get these quarantine rules? I think these rules are available on the college website.
Yes,
Rohan?
so quarantine option is also available on the college and also on the Georgian Assist app. And though the student will be coming by the August, but we have already initiated the plan in the mid of July, so that the parents and the student both are aware of the financial thing that they have to pay at the quarantine, and also the different plans that we have for quarantine, and we have a specific coordinating team for this, so that the student is that they, because as rightly said by Ganga, the whole community is supporting the whole thing. So it's not just the college. When there is a college bursary, the community is also supporting, and the country itself is not, whenever a new student comes, they are just coming to their second home. So even the college is making sure that the quarantine option are very clear to the student.
But do the students get tested when they arrive?
Yeah, I'm sure if they are, they won't be able to fly. So if they are only negative, then only they can fly. So we have to quarantine, and after that, I think the quarantine they will be getting a test done, so that in case there is issue, they can always resolve it. And you won't be. Every college is supporting this, because in the end, the whole market revolves around the student. So we have to make sure that the student is coming, leaving his country, coming to a new country itself. So especially at this pandemic time, we are trying to give the extra support and extra student support services to the student.
Fantastic. Monica, I mean, somebody wrote that, please talk about undergraduate courses. So for me, I mean, is there any distinction? Do the undergraduate courses are better off, worse off during pandemic? Or, I mean, they are almost at par?
I would not say, since it's a college, it's a public college. First of all, it's not community college. That is the difference. So why it's public college? Because we are offering 19 plus bachelor's honors degree. That is an undergrad. Now, undergrad in which level they are looking for? If they are looking for the bachelor's degree, that is a 4 years of degree, or 2 years of diplomas. That is also, we can say, and then 3 years of diplomas. So it's not worse. You can say that depends on the students' criteria, what students are looking for, and what is their eligibility to apply for the program. Because all programs like honors bachelor's degree is something, it's an honors program for students. So the students cannot get into this directly. So either we have a pathways kind of the program like diplomas or advanced diplomas. Any students, because I do understand now mostly students, they have received their CBSE result, and that is they are now looking for, and by God grace, everybody I think got very good result for their 10th and 12th. So that is the best year for those people now. Okay, so yes, like we have already offered for students for conditional. This is the first time Seneca, due to the pandemic, we have announced the conditional offer also for students due to their academic lacking of the last semester or the 12th mark sheets. But if they have already fulfilled their English proficiency, we have already offered them the conditional offer letter. So now they can send us the final result to get the unconditional offer letter for their visa process and all, and pathways like any student who have not done their maths. So we have so many kind of the programs, like students have the problem, they are a little bit apprehensive if they have not done their maths in their 12th. So how? Because maximum Canadian institutes where maths requirement is also there for undergrad level. So Seneca, we have so many programs, we have designed the programs. If students who have not done maths in their 12th, so which kind of a programs they can apply? Like beside, I would say any science or technology related program, they are open to apply any program, and we do consider their maths 10th standard maths instead of 12th standard. So they should not worry. Any students who have not done maths in their 12th and they are looking for any undergrad level with either diplomas or advanced diploma, we do consider their 10th maths. So I don't think so there is any decline or kind of a preferences in kind of a thing. So that depends on students for the undergrad program.
Okay, okay. So that should not be an issue at all. Okay,
No.
fantastic. So I think about there are a lot of questions about job opportunities. I think Rohan did take it right. So I think digital courses would be more in demand. I mean the situation is almost similar in India.
Yeah.
I don't think anything apart from Microsoft is selling nowadays, right? So nothing else is selling, right? So hospitality industry is in doldrums. The only thing that sells is the digital courses, digital enablers, right? So I think similar industries would be there in Canada, but because Indian economy gets driven by consumption, so you will still find a lot of pockets. Canadian economy, so I'm not an expert, but I believe it should be digital. I would, because employment is again, as I said, I mean it's a single most focused, talked and cared about parameter for Indian students. Ganga, your final words. Which courses, right, students should avoid, right? So, and of course, opt for,
Right.
right? Strictly employment. I mean, there is no academic perspective to this. Strictly from an employment
Of course,
perspective.
it also depends upon the student's area of interest and their academic eligibility. But yes, what we generally seeing right now is like data analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, automation and robotics, manufacturing with the automation. So these are things which have really jumped because of the pandemic, because the pandemic has made businesses very, very wary of totally relying on the human interface, so or very close human interface. So therefore they are looking at more of robotics, automation. That is the kind of thing which most of the businesses are shifting to, artificial intelligence. So these are fields which are, I mean, and of course even much before the pandemic these were supposed to grow exponentially. But now with the pandemic happening, most businesses, in fact, I think Walmart, Amazon and all, they have increased their workforce because of the automation, and they are able to actually increase their workforce. They've hired huge numbers of people. So the entry level jobs there are also available, as well as, of course, because they're into automation and, consultancy for automation and all of that. I think that is what is the real way forward. But it doesn't mean that there won't be jobs in other fields, but this seems to have suddenly taken a leap. That's all I have to say.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Ganga. Amit, a quick word, right? So students did say that, we talk about core programs, right? And of course, I mean, Seneca and Georgian, they're the elites, right? So with a lot of core programs for students. Now, people have been asking that, what about colleges which do not give co-ops, right? So do we have a life in Canada without core programs?
Great question. So, the entire Canada college or university experience is centered around what Canadians called as experiential learning. Now, experiential learning has different components to it. So students are sometimes offered co-ops, and you'll see a lot of colleges having optional co-op. The reason they have optional co-op is a lot of students really don't want to do co-op. A lot of students might not want to do co-op. Some might want to do co-op, considering the huge advantages there are. But experiential learning has practicums in it, has internships in it, has work experience which is unpaid, work experience that might not be a co-op component. So you might not get a semester off to work, but you might be able to do a practicum or internship, which is different than a co-op. So it's just structured differently in many cases. So experiential learning doesn't have to be only co-op. So this is especially important for students who are not necessarily going in co-op courses, because co-op courses are mostly available in trades. What about you doing a business management course which does not have a co-op, or you are doing or you're doing another course which does not have a co-op? It just is not available. Now, what happens that? Would you not be able to get Canadian experience while you're studying, or things like that? The answer is, you have to look at it from experiential learning point of view, where different opportunities are available for practicums and internships which are other than co-op. But whatever a student can do to gain relevant industry experience, that is valued more than flipping burgers at A&W or McDonald's or Burger King. So definitely, value in the work experience is more relevant rather than work experience itself. Now, I'm not saying there's no value at working at McDonald's. There are essential skills one learns, and customer service, and and I've worked at a pizza area when I was studying in America, and I learned great discipline, great work ethic. I learned customer service. I learned how to run the till, how to use EDC machines. So there are great skills that you can learn even in part-time jobs that are there. But that is less of a value to an employer rather than having relevant work experience. And practicums and internships and co-ops lead you to that relevant experience learning outcome.
Okay. Thanks, Srivastava. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. I would like a word from you, right? So would you have, Amit, would you prefer some specific geographies within Canada, right? So would you say that, Ontario is a better place to be at, or you think even, Quebec is, again, which geographies would you kind of suggest to your students?
Depends what you want to do, what you want to study. तो कनाडा जाने से पहले सबसे पहले आपको ये समझना पड़ेगा कि जो 10 प्रोविंसेस हैं कोस्ट टू कोस्ट, कैनेडियन फ्लैग हम देखते हैं जो पीछे है, तो दोनों तरफ लाल पट्टे आपको दिखेंगे, वो एक अटलांटिक ओशन है, एक पैसिफिक ओशन है, बीच में जो सफेद है वो कनाडा है. तो वर्ल्ड का सेकंड लार्जेस्ट बाय लैंड एरिया, एक छोर से दूसरे छोर पहुंचने के लिए कनाडा में 5 घंटे की फ्लाइट चाहिए आपको, और प्लेन का खर्चा इंडिया से लंदन का सस्ता होगा बनिस्बत एक कनाडा के कोने से दूसरे कनाडा के कोने पे पहुंचने के लिए. तो आपको ये समझना पड़ेगा स्टूडेंट्स को कि वो कौन से प्रोविंस में कौन से प्रोग्राम के लिए जा रहे हैं. अगर आप सस्कैचुअन जा रहे हैं तो दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा एग्रीकल्चरल प्रोड्यूसर है सस्कैचुअन. इंडिया में जो आप छोला भटूरा खाते हैं, ज्यादा चांस है कि वो इंपोर्टेड छोला भटूरा खा रहे हैं, क्योंकि वो सस्कैचुअन से बरसों से इंपोर्ट हो रहा है. आप आज दोपहर में या रात को दाल खाएंगे अपनी, तो जो दाल खाएंगे अगर काली दाल है, मसूर की दाल है, पीली दाल है, तो ज्यादा चांस है वो सस्कैचुअन से आई हुई है, क्योंकि इंडिया सबसे बड़ा इंपोर्टर है सस्कैचुअन से दाल का. तो आप अगर एग्रीकल्चर कोर्सेज में जाना चाहते हैं, मैकेनिकल कोर्सेज में और एग्रीकल्चरल इक्विपमेंट में, एग्री बिजनेस में जाना चाहते हैं, क्रॉप साइंस में जाना चाहते हैं, तो यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ सस्कैचुअन जो है वर्ल्ड की नंबर 1 रिसर्च यूनिवर्सिटी है क्रॉप साइंस में. तो कौन से कोर्स के लिए, अगर आप फर्टिलाइजर पोटैश का सबसे बड़ा मैन्युफैक्चरर, तो ये सिर्फ एक प्रोविंस की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ. अगर आप क्वेबेक में जाना चाहते हैं तो आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस में क्वेबेक सबसे आगे है. अगर आप ओंटारियो में जाना चाहते हैं तो ओंटारियो में गुएल्फ, किचनर, वाटरलू रीजन जो है, जो जिसे कहते हैं टेक्नोलॉजी ट्रायंगल, वहाँ 4 से 5 हजार कंपनियां हैं, इंक्लूडिंग गूगल, इंक्लूडिंग रिसर्च इन मोशन जो ब्लैकबेरी, जिसे हम इंडिया में ब्लैकबेरी एक जमाने में जाना करते थे, शॉपिफाई, ऐसी ई कॉमर्स कंपनीज बड़ी बड़ी और हजारों स्टार्टअप्स हैं. ना कि सिर्फ वो हैं, पर इस रीजन में सारे ऑटोमोबाइल मैन्युफैक्चरर्स हैं, जैसे टोयोटा हो गया. तो डिपेंड करता है आप कौन से कोर्स में जा रहे हैं. अगर आप एविएशन के जी, आप अगर
आप चूज करना चाहते हैं,
बिल्कुल, अगर आप एविएशन
just like to add something here. Most of the students most of the students who are looking at study in Canada also have an objective of study, post-study work, and then the permanent residency, which is a carrot which most students are looking at definitely as their final objective, to be able to settle down in Canada. And to settle down in Canada, the only way is, well, the permanent residency, for which you have to apply through certain routes. Now, when you apply through certain routes, most of the students usually apply through the Canadian experience class, which needs 1 year of Canadian work experience. And if they already go with a lot of experience, because there are students who go with a lot of experience, then they can also apply to the federal skilled worker category. But these and federal skilled worker requires you to get certain points, because you get those points. But when you apply through the express entry, which is the gateway to apply for permanent residency, there are certain things which gives them certain extra points. One, of course, whether what the kind of program that they've studied, that would give them certain points. I do not want to go to the details of all of that right now, because that will become too long. But there are other aspects of the provincial nominee program, which each province has a provincial nominee program, and that allows us a person to get 600 extra points and that is based on your employer sponsorship. If the employer wants to sponsor you, so that he wants to retain you within that province and retain you with a job, he sponsor you for permanent residency, and that allows you to get 600 extra points towards the express entry points. Now, in addition to the PNP, in addition to the general PNP, there is an aspect called the international student PNP. The PNP has an international student component to it, which means that each province has a special flexibility or an easier pathway for an international student to get the provincial nomination, so that he can get those extra points to apply for his permanent residency. Now, there are certain things called the North Atlantic, the Atlantic Provincial Nominee Program, or the Rural Northern Immigration Pilot. There are the BC Tech program. So there are various things in addition to that, like Saskatchewan International, Provincial Nominee. Similarly for Manitoba. So like that. And basically what they need you is that after you finished your study in a public college or a university in that province, if you've got a job offer, or in some cases you may need to have certain work experience in that province, then they give you the invitation to apply for permanent residency, and that invitation fetches you 600 points. So students are very, very keen on knowing these issues as well, and that definitely helps them to make a choice of the location, not only just the program or the college, but also these kind of locations help students to be able to make their permanent pathway to permanent residency much faster.
Fantastic, great. So students, viewers, studies, then employment, and then PR. There are three different things. You have to segregate. You have to focus. कि आपको करना क्या है, आप पढ़ाई करने जाना, then you want to come back and join a family business, then maybe there will be specific colleges, specific geographies for that. You want to earn a quick buck, I'm sure there will be different institutions for that. If you're looking specifically for PR, then again, there are different geographies for that. I think your counselors, your advisors, they are the best people to reflect upon that. I think, yes, we are almost over with the time as well, right? And finally, I think let me take this opportunity to thank all of you. All right, it was a great experience. Thank you so much, Monica, for coming up. Right, thanks so much, Rohan. All right, I'm sure. I mean, the best part was you guys did represent. You were not representing Seneca and Georgian today. You actually represented all Canadian colleges and specifically public institutes, right? Because Indian students did view you as somebody who's representing Canadian institutes, right? So thank you so much for giving that perspective, and thank you so much, Amit. Right, it's always a pleasure, talking to you, interacting with you. And Ganga, I mean, it's a first interaction, but yes, thank you so much. It's amazing, and I really hope that we'll continue to catch up for information catching. I mean, it's a lot for us to learn, right, from people like you and Amit. Thank you so much for coming up.